Hello everybody, my Facebook and Instagram followers everywhere, you amazing people. Of course, this is Jason Cosmic Truth Authority. And today, once again, my friends, I think it's so important. Let's keep an eye, let's keep track of the motorcade freedom movement across Canada. That's right. Do you see anybody, like I asked in the last live, do you see anybody you recognize? Oh, I'm sure you recognize Chris Sky, right? He looks so tall from the rooftops on the mountains. But do you recognize anybody else? Do you recognize perhaps me? There I am. Look at right here in the corner, my friends. But this original photo, it didn't have me in it. No, I had a cool friend of mine. He's good with technology, thankfully, and hopefully he's going to do some thumbnails for me in the future and hop on this amazing journey with me. He was kind enough to put me right there in the corner. I didn't even ask him. He actually did it and surprised me. And as I said in my last video, I think a buddy of mine joked that Kellyanne Wolf looks like she's slapping me. She's slapping me. No, she's just waving. The lovely Kellyanne Wolf. Here's Vlad, of course, the man that says over and over again, you know, he reminds you he came from Russia, the communist country, right? And the man that over and over again in his speeches, though, my friends, he makes it seem, he literally said we're in a communist country. I want you to think about that as we go along in this video, my friends. Let's keep an eye out, our ears and eyes open for the comments, the messages that some of these freedom leaders, so-called freedom leader fighters, put out, my friends. Okay? And I want to thank all of you amazing truth, health, freedom warriors out there and leaders, because there's a lot of you out there. And you don't necessarily have to be a speaker. I've been honored and privileged to be one of those, I think, powerful, charismatic speakers, so I'm told. And again, I always tell my audience, I'm privileged, humbled, and honored to do these speeches. I don't always say humble, but privileged and honored. But I would add humbled too. Okay? Now, I think one of the other so-called freedom fighters is this Jim Kerr, my friends? Is that his name? I think it is, right? He's on the bubble bus. And he seems like a real fun guy. Smokes a lot of weed probably, but that's okay. And they shoot out the bubbles on the bubble bus. And he's been arrested several times. I'm sure he discusses some important issues at times. He's spoken on top of the bus. So anyway, these are some of the individuals. Now, and thank you for joining me today, everybody. I meant to say, of course. We're going to have some fun, hopefully, but we're also going to be serious at times, my friends. Now, who is this guy here? I forget his name. I think I've heard his name before. Was he on the Kevin Johnson show? I'm not sure. But we're going to focus a lot, my friends, at times on Chris Sky, though. And we're going to discuss Vlad. And I'm not going to discuss too much on Kelly. Obviously, I have some questions about Kelly, and her and I will talk in person. And I'm looking forward to meeting Chris Sky. You know, obviously I know Kelly, and we've talked before, but I've never met Chris Sky yet. There's my buddy. I was waiting for you, Steve. Hi, buddy. Thanks for coming on, man. I was just saying, Steve, that we're going to talk more about Chris Sky and Vlad, not so much about Kellyanne Wolf. And I said that I believe the Mr. Bubble Bus, one of the so-called freedom fighters, is this... what's his name again? I always forget. Something Kerr. I just said his name. Or Jim Kerr, I believe, right? And this guy, I forget his name. Anyway, we're going to have some fun, and yet we're going to be serious at times too, my friends. Because, again, we need hard, powerful, determined, peaceful action, my friends. And we cannot be sidetracked. We cannot be distracted anymore. We got to fight against the division. Because, and Steve, my buddy, knows full well, and he's educating me actually on a lot of the division that has taken place from time to time, of course, within our freedom movements. And it just shows you again, everyone, you know, part of the good news about that is, in a way, is that it shows, as I've said, my friends, that we're doing the right thing. We're trying to be change agents, many of us, to fight for this country, to fight for our precious children, our babies, and every single good Canadian out there, my friends. And we want to feed our families. We want to strengthen this country. Big guy is from Alberta. Thank you for that, my friend. Thank you, Steve. And you know what? That reminds me, Steve. I may not have remembered to say this on this live today. We're going to talk about some of the things that Chris Sky does not tell you. You know, some of these so-called freedom leaders, my friends, it's almost just as important as what they don't tell you as what they do spout off. Okay? Now, I've always tried to give a fair appraisal of Chris Sky and the others. I use a little bit of trepidation. Obviously, I'm bringing up some names, but I want to put in your minds, my audience, for you to ask the questions and make up your own mind. Who is controlled opposition at times and who is not? Are there forces that bring these people in from time to time, like I said on the last live, my friends, that are telling them what to say and what not to say? And again, we know, my friends, there's a lot of controlled opposition, particularly within these freedom movements. And again, everybody, there's a lot of psyops, and we're going to get into that, right? That's part of it. Psychological operations. And the deep forces, the dark forces, this, deep state, foreign fascist government out there, or groups, right? They love a fascist, covert communist government. These tyrannical groups, my friends, these degenerate scumbags, some of them, okay? These are some of the financial global predators and controllers out there. They operate in the shadows. They're cowards. They don't go in front of your face, my friends. And they will use people, right? Controlled opposition. And this is not, these freedom movements, my friends, it's not the only time, right? This is throughout history. They will put out people that will talk the good talk at times. But if you listen carefully, my friends, and you watch their actions, a lot of times they're not really change agents. And a lot of times, as part of the psyop, my friends, the overall message, in this case, when it concerns Canada, if you listen carefully, some of these so-called freedom leaders or fighters out there, my friends, and speakers, and often they'll have a big following, their emotion, and my friends agree, if you listen, everybody, and I've learned this, their emotion is it's demoralizing. It makes you think that we are in a communist country. I'll give you an example, everybody, and again, that we have no rights and freedoms, and all this horse shit, and a lot of fear. Vlad, the originator of Hugs Over Mass, that I met, and I used to get along with him before I really studied, controlled opposition, etc. And then before I really listened to a lot of his messages, and I talked about, with other friends. And then I listened to, of course, a 2-hour amazing Zoom call with Jane Scarf and Vlad, and they went at it. It was very entertaining, I thought, for the most part. And Jane called him out. She literally said at the end of the Zoom call, "I think you're controlled opposition." Now, why would Jane say that, my friends? This amazing woman and a fantastic person who's a paralegal lawyer, who's a woman of intellectual integrity and honesty. She has no reason to lie, right? Well, because she's paid attention, my friends, and she's a freedom fighter, right? She's trying to show people, who is controlled opposition and why we need to call them out when they're behaving badly. Like a Vlad, my friends. I'll give you an example of his bad behavior and why we got to ask the hard questions at the very least. Vlad literally said, and Steve knows, that we're in a communist country. We're not in a communist country, but apparently Vlad wants to seem to make you think that we are. And then remember, he always uses the fallback position. Well, I come from Russia, a communist country. So what? So what, Vlad? Yes, there's tyranny in Russia. I never lived in Russia, so I can't say I experienced firsthand communism. But to say that living in Canada, you're a freedom leader and you're going to put out an emotion and make it a fact that we're a communist country? No, we're not, Vlad. And a lot of people know we're not. And a lot of people are waking up to the fact, and this is why I do these videos, everyone, to inspire your passion, everybody, and to tell you the fact that we will never allow Canada to be a communist country. Okay? And this goes against all reason, logic, common sense. We got the United States right next door. I mean, this is all amazing news, isn't it, everybody? There's a lot of reasons to think positive and to not be fearful, my friends. But you would never know it sometimes with some of the things that Vlad says. Okay? Again, you think the United States is going to let their next door neighbor Canada be a communist country? And do you think the United States are going to allow them to be a communist country? Of course not. And by the way, everyone, and we're going to talk about the Canadian Bill of Rights if you don't mind today too. Again, everyone, we are a free democratic society and country here in Canada. And as one of the reasons why we're going to win, everybody, and I'm trying to show more people just to remind ourselves, as I said in the last video, millions of people came to Canada and the United States. And they didn't care if they lived or died. They came here for absolute freedom. Freedom, look up, we're all sparks of the divine, my friends, right? And democracy. And the Canadian Bill of Rights basically shows you this, my friends. Same with the U.S. Constitution, okay? Another thing I wanted to mention, everyone, before I forget. Remember what I said, Steve, I don't know if you heard this before you came on. I said, I think it's just as important at times as what some of these so-called freedom leaders, what they don't say as what they do say. I repeat, I think it's just as important as what things that Chris Sky doesn't tell you that he should be as what he does spout off. Same with some of these other people, my friends, like a Vlad. By the way, and before I forget, everybody, we'll get into some of the things that they don't say that they should be talking about. I find it very curious. I was just talking to Steve and some other friends about this. Maybe, Steve, you could fill me in a bit more. Have you ever seen Chris Sky? Have you ever seen maybe even Jim Kerr here? I don't know how many speeches Jim Kerr does. He's the Mr. Bubble Bus guy. Seems like, again, a fun guy. Have you ever seen Vlad? Have you ever seen them where, I hope you could tell me Kellyanne Wolf does. I don't know. Does Kellyanne Wolf or any of them, do they wear any Canada signal, what do you call that word, embroidery? Do they wear anything to resemble Canada? Do they have Canada maple leafs? Do you see it in this photo, my friends? Here's a very important motorcade freedom cross-Canada tour. They never officially invited me. Again, I'll ask Kelly when I see her, why, Kelly, did you not officially invite me? Why did you seemingly not try to help facilitate the trip? Other than you said it would cost $500, but okay, let me give you a break on this tour. Maybe you just couldn't do it for some reason. But what about British Columbia? You never asked me. And Kelly, you said that you wanted me. I didn't ask Kelly this. Kelly told me, my friends, she said she wanted me to go on tour with her and Chris Sky a few months ago in Alberta. Remember their trip to Alberta they went on? Never happened. Kelly, you didn't follow through, honey. Why is that? Anyway, I'll talk to her about that. It's just very, very disappointing. And again, I would have put these guys, I would have set them straight, man. We got to get them to talk about the Canadian Bill of Rights, or they should, my friends, and they would have heard it from me on that trip. Respectfully but firmly, I would have been with them, okay? And sure, I'd like to have some sort of friendship with them, and I think I do with some of these so-called leaders. But I certainly want to meet Chris Sky, my friends. This guy has to talk about the Canadian Bill of Rights, okay? Kellyanne Wolf, to her credit, at least she talked about it for a while. She was on the bandwagon talking, showing you the Canadian Bill of Rights, reading it off, but then she dropped the ball. Kelly, you got to get back on it, man. You see, my friends, as I was trying to show you in the last live and other videos, and I did it in Toronto in front of a live audience in one of my speeches, everybody. I was honored to do it. Remember, on March 20th in front of about 1,800, 2,000 people, Steve knows. Thank you. Not that I recall. Good point, Steve says. Okay, thanks, Steve. But Steve will know this. On March 20th, my friends, I brought up the Canadian Bill of Rights. Briefly, but I did. And I think I did it pretty powerfully the way I brought it up and talked about it. And apparently, Steve knows this, my friends, and said so, I believe. Can you imagine? I am the only one in Toronto as a speaker that has discussed the Canadian Bill of Rights, enforcing this amazing constitutionally active, binding legislation that's miraculous, my friends. The values that come out of the Canadian Bill of Rights are miraculous. They are divine. It was written in 1961 by Diefenbaker. We're going to get into it more, my friends, in a few minutes, right? And there's no loopholes. But there should be more speakers, of course, talking about the Canadian Bill of Rights, my friends. Can you imagine? And none of the politicians in government discuss it, hardly ever. They try to hide it under the rug, everybody. This is a fact. And instead, we know, and more people are realizing it, my friends, they pump up the Canadian Charter rights and freedoms. What the hell's going on? And they will know, my friends, they will absolutely know, especially within the last few months, let alone a year, that there's loopholes. There's literally like a commie clause within the Charter, my friends. No thanks to Pierre Elliott Trudeau, who we know was a communist lover. He wanted Canada to be a communist country, my friends. He told you he wanted a centralized government. We know this is part of history, my friends. We've got to be aware of this, right? And talk about it and fight for our human rights, our human dignity. And the Charter really, my friends, even though it sounds good at times, in the end, it doesn't help you. Not very much. Particularly, again, through the Emergency Management Civil Protection Act. Again, there's loopholes where the police at times can override your rights and freedoms. And again, very few cops are captured, but some are. And we've seen it, my friends, where small groups at times were violating our rights and freedoms, even though we didn't do anything wrong, right? Whether it be interfering with our assembly, our freedom to associate, whether it be to talk about, again, our amazing freedoms in Canada, right? They were trying to shut that down and shut us up at times. But it's a very small group, my friends. That's the good news, okay? And again, under the Management Civil Protection Act, and you had remember the Ontario Reopening Act, you got to be 6 feet apart. You know, I've been fined many, many times, right? I've got about, I don't know, $1,500 maybe in fines. It's so crazy. Fining Jason Cosmic Truth Authority for not being 6 feet apart. I mean, it's just insane, right? Everybody, it's a joke. You think I'll ever have to pay these fines? Of course not. But I digress. Anyway, so my friends, guess who pumps up the Charter as one of the so-called freedom fighters? Mr. Non-compliant he's supposed to be. I think this is significant, everybody. You could tell me if you agree. Guess who it is? Chris Sky, my friends. I said it before in the last live. We got to talk about it, everybody. We have to transform our leadership. We can't just, nor should we just follow along some of these so-called freedom leaders like as if we're sheeple, man. We've got to ask the hard questions, my friends, right? Because it all comes, if we want an authentic movement, an authentic bottoms-up grassroots movement, everybody, right? And real leadership, then we have to simply discuss, first of all, we need more of our leaders to discuss the Canadian Bill of Rights and show how powerful this legislation is, show how powerful we are as a human race, my friends, and Canadians, and Canadian patriots, right? And let's educate, my friends. Chris Sky educates on some levels, but for example, with vaccines, my friends, how is Chris Sky, especially when it comes to speeches, how is he educating anybody on vaccines? How is he using his Instagram to educate people on the deep issues of vaccines? I don't see it. Maybe I'm missing certain things, everybody, because again, his Instagram it's a marketing campaign, is it not? It says, and I've said this before, my friends, right? It says, just say no. Well, that's part of it. Yes, you be non-compliant, of course, through this evil, unless you want to be a guinea pig through this experimental gene therapy, right, my friends? But where is the education? You know, again, Chris Sky, my friends, he'll never tell you about how to follow the money. Not like I do, following the line of Dr. Shiva, for example. Chris Sky will never tell you, for example, that Pfizer vaccine company, in 2011, their revenue was $65 billion. But today, in 2020, my friends, as of 2020, they dropped to $41 billion. So Pfizer lost almost 40% of their revenue, right? $25 billion. And that's why they needed a cash infusion, my friends. They were losing money, man. And that's why they went to Israel. And the Israel president, as Dr. Shiva shows you, my friends, he's the marketing partner for Pfizer. Imagine if Chris Sky had intelligent discourse talking about those important issues, those vital issues, my friends. You think that could help start possibly a real profound change almost like a revolution in Canada if the rest of us joined on the bandwagon on that kind of information? I think there's a chance, my friends, but you won't hear that from Chris Sky for some reason, right? He's not going to talk about it. Hi, Tanya. And again, once I meet Chris Sky, my friends, I'm going to put him on the spot, dude. You should be discussing that. And maybe it just takes me educating Chris Sky on more of the issues to do with vaccines. And again, I will give shit to Chris Sky, respectful, but I will be firm with him, my friends, and tell him, dude, what the hell happened at the bylaw border? And, you know, we don't have borders in Canada, my friends, as Jane so adequately says. She says they're bylaw borders, right? But when he was coming back from Manitoba, the so-called bylaw border, why did Chris Sky whip out his ID? Why did he tell the cop where he lived? He's supposed to be Mr. Non-Compliant. This was a very, very important time, my friends, right? Remember, there was the PSYOP, all the propaganda that the cops might restrict our mobility rights, right? Moving province to province. So Chris Sky's traveling, right? He's talking, and he arrives at this bylaw border. He basically whips out his ID, again, tells the cop where he lives. What the hell's going on? And he used the charter. Chris, why did you do that? And he used Section 7, I believe. But why would you use the charter? Why have you not said a peep about the Canadian Bill of Rights, Chris? And why, Chris, you're supposed to be Mr. Non-Compliant. Why did you whip out your ID? Why did you not complain or just say, and again, everyone, people showed you how to do it properly. Jane did a really cool puppet video. She posts on Facebook and other platforms where she showed you how you talk to the cop and what you do. You don't give out your ID, right? You don't freely just say, oh, well, this is where I live. This is my address. No, they don't have any right to do that, my friends. The cops have no right to just know where you're living and demand that from you. Absolutely not. Okay, my friends? And she showed you how it's done. Not only that, everybody, there was another freedom, I don't know if to call him a freedom leader, but he's part of the movement, right? Again, fighting for truth, health, and freedom. And I apologize, I forget his name. He showed you how to do it properly. Chris could have learned a tour thing from this guy, but Chris, should have known. He knew better. Chris knew better what he was doing, my friends. So this man I'm talking about, this other individual, he said, he basically told the cop, he said, I don't feel comfortable giving you my ID. And as I said in the last live, everybody, that cop went to his higher-up, came back, and they basically said to the individual who's traveling, they said, oh, you've given us plenty of information. Don't worry about, go on your merry way sort of deal. And so that person, my friends, the significance of that, right? He could have lived anywhere in Ontario. So what I ask is, are there forces behind the scenes? Otherwise, why did Chris Sky do what he did, my friends? And I'm going to ask him. Are forces behind the scenes pulling Chris Sky in at times like they do many other people at times to tell him to act a certain way? For example, they know his followers, Chris Sky's followers, potentially would go to that bylaw border and other places, right? And they would do the same thing as Chris Sky. Just whip out the ID when the cop asks you where you live and I want to see some ID, instead of fighting for your rights, right? Instead of saying, I don't feel comfortable giving you my ID or telling you where I live. I mean, this is so significant, everybody, right? We got to look at it hard, man. And this is why I try to educate people on PSYOPs, my friends. And again, if we don't educate, as the great Dr. Shiva says, we're going to be enslaved. And I want to go over it again, everyone, if I may, of what a PSYOP is, okay? Am I talking too fast, Steve or Tanya? I hope not. Let me know if I am, okay, if I need to slow down. I'm a little wound up. But I get so excited, everybody, because, again, we are winning, my friends. And we just got to instill more positivity in Canada. We need to just understand that every day, yes, we are educating more and more people. Let's continue to inspire others, motivate and encourage one another. And that's the great news, everybody. And realize we're not alone. There's millions of truth, health, freedom warriors out there. And that's why ultimately we're going to win this battle, my friends. I'm convinced we're going to end a lot of this corruption and tyranny. But as I've always said, one of the sacrifices for freedom is, of course, hypervigilance, eternal vigilance, my friends. So let's be vigilant. Let's have, again, steadfast Let's remain steadfast, strong, and powerful. Let's have hard, powerful, peaceful, determined action. And if we ever do need a militant bottoms-up movement, we got amazing Canadian Armed Forces, as I've always said, everyone, right? I've been honored again to train them. I say that over and over again. It's true. And I want to inspire, hopefully, more Canadian Armed Forces and troops to get their asses over to our protests and marches worldwide, not just here in Ontario, but all across Canada, and get our Canadian Armed Forces to participate. I know they're going to have fun if they would just be able to hopefully leverage their time. We've had some Canadian military. I want to thank Kelly. She did get some military. I think it was part of her organizing it, where some retired military came and spoke. I actually met one of them in Ottawa, of course. He did a very, very good, powerful speech, I thought. He was retired, and he was discussing what a lot of us were, my friends. He's really seeing, at times, this communist-like behavior happening in Canada, this tyranny, and it's disgusting. But, my friends, let's have a wide perspective here that we do not have to feel demoralized, nor should we, my friends. We do not have to overall feel fearful. They're trying to inject and foster fear, my friends. And that's all part of the psychological operations, okay? And us as citizens, my friends, those that are not serving straight in the military, let's inspire more of our military and thank them let's thank many of our armed forces for not, for example, succumbing to the jab. Can you imagine the pressure that some of our Canadian Armed Forces, just like in the U.S., my friends, a lot of them were going through insidious pressure to get jabbed. And they probably still are, my friends. Okay? And again, I just might have been involved in an unacknowledged special access project before. You never know, my friends. You never know. But really, so again, let's commend our amazing Canadian Armed Forces, my friends. They know what a PSYOP is. They know this experimental gene therapy can be very dangerous. Why would they want to be guinea pigs for this garbage? But apparently they're almost conned by the higher-ups, some of the generals out there, some. But anyway, and again, my friends, a lot of our Canadian Armed Forces, let's inspire them to, again, continue to protect our rights and freedoms. Maybe even the military can come up with strategies, for example, to kick out Pfizer. Pfizer, the vaccine company that's here in Canada, my friends. I'll give you a quick example. And again, I think Chris Sky and the rest of them are never going to tell you this, of course, I don't believe. But I was going to say Trump. Pardon me, Justin Trudeau, apparently, and by the way, did you know Justin Trudeau, our Prime Minister, Mr. Diva Boy, I call him an ass clown, but no, he was denied, wasn't he, to go over to the G7 countries. He was denied in 2016 because apparently, again, a lot of the elites, the financial cabal, call them what you will, some of the global financial predators and people very high up in governments around the world in different organizations, they didn't want Justin Trudeau there. They know he's a joke. He's a puppet. But now Justin Trudeau, he did go over to these G7 countries, this summit this time. And guess what, my friends? I found out through a friend, it's been confirmed, I believe, that Justin Trudeau, and this is why they invited him, I guess, to go, he got a contract with Pfizer. Literally, Canada has a contract with Pfizer, the Canadian government, that is, not us Canadian patriots on the ground. But they've got a contract with Pfizer, my friends. Believe me, we're going to do the pushback. And it's the contract with Pfizer, I believe, is till 2024. So they're trying to play the long game on this absolute evil nonsense, my friends, right? Trying to go against the Nuremberg Code. Trying to bully you and con you into getting jabbed. And then you got all the propaganda that they might implement, vaccine passports or force you to be vaccinated. You know, all this garbage, my friends. The great news, again, is we're not going to allow this kind of tyranny. We're not going to allow this type of insidious control, right, or evil to prevail. We're not going to we're not going to allow our Canadian government to implement a vaccine passport. Again, there's a lot of great news here, everybody, and it's all because of you. I want to thank you. Again, we have millions of truth, health, freedom warriors out there, okay? And a friend of mine is Polish, okay? And I have quite a few Polish friends. And actually my friend Derek, and he told me that maybe in a speech, I should mention to the audience that from his understanding, there's about 100,000 Polish people or so just in the GTA alone in Toronto, my friends. So as he was sort of saying, can you imagine if we could get even thousands of those 100,000 Polish people to come out and just join our protests, experience the amazing positivity and electric energy from these freedom rallies, just in the GTA alone. Imagine that, everyone, right? But, the governments, apparently they know that, unfortunately, everyone, a lot of our immigrants, or many of them, again, they're scared that somehow they may be sent to their own, back home to another country, just because they attend a protest. And I hope we can maybe help change their minds that, and I don't think that would happen, but hopefully we can, persuade or just, again, motivate more immigrants to join our protests, everybody, so we can get larger numbers, right, my friends? Because, again, I've said this in a speech, everybody, through these enslavement lockdowns, these tyrannical, and again, we know we've got basically an ass clown overall for a government. I mean, let me just say, they're intellectually bankrupt. We know Doug Ford, Mr. Cheesecake, in my opinion, he's largely an ass clown. Everybody in Canada knows it by now. I think that's half awake, right? So our government's a joke, unfortunately, my friends. So it's us, the people, everybody. We have the power, though, right? We elected these government officials, but ultimately, my friends, it's us. We're the government. We have the power, okay? And here's an example, my friends. So a lot of people, though, in Canada, unfortunately, they've been actually scared of this just ass clown or intellectually bankrupt of a government that we do have. They've been actually scared of them at times. With all the businesses shutting down, they're afraid that if they open up their business, they're going to be put in jail maybe, or be able to have to pay an expensive fine. But again, my friends, the great news is a lot of that isn't true, right? Every single business should have stayed open. They never would have had to shut down. And can you imagine if just even you had businesses uniting together, just further consolidation of our power, everybody? That's what should have took place. And apparently for most businesses, my friends, they just caved in, unfortunately, right? They bought into the PSYOP, psychological operations, and they shut down. And they shouldn't have, everybody, because as I've always said, when you use your Canadian Bill of Rights, particularly under all these illegal pieces of legislation, we know, everybody, the Emergency Management Civil Protection Act, it's illegal, right? They put out fake science as well. Again, everybody, and these are not laws. That's the great news, my friends. The Reopening Ontario Act, it was a joke. It wasn't a law. You don't need 6 feet apart for social distancing. It's ridiculous, my friends, right? So anyway, not one business should ever shut down. And I've always said, everybody, so a lot of people, unfortunately, they've been afraid of their government at times through these enslavement lockdowns. However, when we change our mindset, get more people to change their mindset, my friends, we can get to a point, just like in the United States, where when the government is afraid of the people, afraid of you out there, everybody, that is liberty, right? And as I've always said, liberty does not descend to human beings. We have to ascend to liberty. And I always ask my audience after that when I'm speaking, do you agree? And they say yes. And I've been honored to say this in Toronto and ask my audiences. I'll ask you out there, anybody want to read me a comment? Do you agree with what I just said? Let me repeat it. When people are afraid of the government, and of course in Russia, where Vlad is from, even though Vlad's trying to make it seem like half the time that we're already in a communist country in Canada, which is bullshit. But in Russia, communist countries like, you name it, China, etc., my friends, when the people are afraid of the government, that is tyranny. But when the government is afraid of you, the people, everybody, that's liberty. It really is. And this brings me to the Canadian Bill of Rights, everybody. The Canadian Bill of Rights, it wasn't signed into law. This is, again, an international covenant of human rights that signed the Canadian Bill of Rights into law, my friends, right? 1961, and there was a lot of thought put into it. We're going to get into that. 100% right, Stevie says. Thank you, Steve. Tanya's watching. I'm going to give her a thumbs up. One sec. Oh, it's not working for some reason. As I was saying, everybody, so the Canadian Bill of Rights, It wasn't created to govern the people. No, it wasn't, everybody. You're going to see it in this video, hopefully. The Canadian Bill of Rights was constructed to protect us from a tyranny of government, right? Because, and other people have spoken about this at times, everybody, right? Or very few, but some people do, where they'll say, in so many words, the government will go evil, my friends. It will go tyrannical if the people don't keep them in check. It's that simple, my friends, right? And we're seeing it here in Canada at times, where our politicians, here's the problem, my friends, many of our politicians are bought and paid for, and they're selling their soul. They're being manipulated. This is all happening right in front of our face, my friends. But the great news is, again, we can see it, right? Let's have intelligent discourse. Let's, again, cut through the degraded discourse, and let's have intelligent discourse on these issues, my friends. Let's demand real leadership. We need real leadership in this country, because we know through most of our politicians, my friends, we know we have very weak leadership, as I said, right? It's been pathetic. Justin Trudeau, in particular, who's our Prime Minister of Canada, he has not largely protected our rights and freedoms, my friends. We know he's sold out to China, Communist Party of China. Justin Trudeau, as a friend said to me, my friends, he just said, Justin Trudeau is a communist. He is a communist. I would have to agree with him based on most of his actions. So again, everybody, but we can see it, right? And people are talking about it and discussing it. And they know this is reprehensible. They know this is disgusting. They know this is not what Canada was founded upon, my friends. Many people that came to this country, that sacrificed their lives, many we don't even know the names of, they would be, believe me, my friends, Justin Trudeau would not be Prime Minister right now. He would be hauled out of office, right? If some of the troops that sacrificed their lives were still here in Canada, my friends. And this is who we have to try to honor, right? And again, many of our amazing Canadian Armed Forces. Let's not allow Justin Trudeau to continue to be our Prime Minister. This is crazy, man. I mean, and Justin, we know, has had so many debacles, so many crimes against humanity, basically his actions and what do you call it, scandals, right? And he's still in power. Are you kidding me? But this is the real reality, my friends. So again, let's not give up. It's very simple, my friends, when it comes down to it, right? And I know many of you are not going to give up. We are winning in a lot of ways. Don't think we're not, my friends. Again, we are winning. And one of the ways, my friends, that we're winning is more people are being educated and understanding that the Canadian Bill of Rights is the law of the land. And they're understanding that we shouldn't be pumping up the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. And more people in Canada are starting to call out people that do pump up the Charter. And we got to call out including a Chris Sky, because he's using the Charter, my friends. And he's not saying a peep about the Canadian Bill of Rights. Chris, you know that's dead wrong, dude. Dead wrong. Don't you dare give in to any forces that are telling you not to talk about the Canadian Bill of Rights. All right? Because again, you're supposed to be Mr. Non-Compliant. You're supposed to want to protect this country and our children, Chris Sky, if you're a real freedom leader, and future generations, to say the least. Well, you better damn well start discussing the Canadian Bill of Rights. And everybody I talk with agrees, my friends. They understand the importance of this amazing piece of legislation. All my friends and the freedom leaders I've met, my friends, many of them, they understand that, again, it shows the power of this amazing bill, my friends. The government and politicians, they try to hide it under the rug. They use the Charter to distract, right? They don't want Canadian citizens to have the power with the Canadian Bill of Rights, because the Charter, everybody, it treats you literally as a corporate identity at times in this Charter, my friends. And that's why I believe they have shadow people. Sounds like a conspiracy, right? I'm sure my mother would think it was a conspiracy, but God love her. But my friends, this is what they do. And a lot of people are waking up to this, right? They talk about it. It's got shadow people, and they're not interacting with one another. This is what they do, my friends. They put it right in front of your face. It basically treats, it shows that Canada is being dissolved as a corporation, right? If we just use the Charter. But the big difference is, I don't know if you can tell on my amazing shirt here, everybody, but the Canadian Bill of Rights, some of the embroidery, the human beings have skin on them. And they interact with one another. Think about that, everybody. Because the Canadian Bill of Rights shows you, my friends, without a doubt, It treats us and shows we are sovereign human beings, my friends. And again, our rights to freedom, liberty, happiness, peace, all of it comes from divine creation, my friends, right? Just like the amazing U.S. Constitution and the amazing values that came out of the Scottish Enlightenment, okay? And again, my friends, even if, let's say, we didn't even have the Canadian Bill of Rights, which is significant, but a lot of people around the world, as we know, adopt a lot of those same values that came out of the Constitution of the United States. And of course, they have the First and Second Amendment. And this is what we have to fight for. And again, many people sacrifice their lives and soldiers for this country, my friends, for absolute democracy, to protect our fundamental rights, human rights, everybody, right? For, again, peace, liberty, happiness, protection of property, right? So we can have freedom of speech, freedom of assembly. So let's get into it. I'm going to show you, everybody, hopefully I can bring this message home, why Chris Sky, why Kellyanne Wolf needs to get talking about the Canadian Bill of Rights again, why Vlad, he claimed on a Zoom call with Jane, he made it sound really good. Oh yeah, I'm going to discuss the Canadian Bill of Rights, and I forget how he said it, my friends. Well, let's see, is he doing that on this tour, my friends? Please, give me updates, everyone. Find time if you can, because I haven't had the time. Please, try to listen to some of their speeches at least, the freedom fighters here, so-called freedom fighters, and let me know, is Vlad, for example, is he doing what he said on the Zoom call with Jane? Is he going to talk about the Canadian Bill of Rights? Because he said he was going to. He told Jane that, and Canadians out there, right? Is Chris Sky, is he going to surprise us and discuss and enforce the Canadian Bill of Rights? The man that's got maybe hundreds of thousands of followers in Canada, right? He's really popular. You either love Chris Sky or you hate him. I think there's maybe a lot of people would probably agree with that, right? But anyway, you know, again, I'm looking forward to meeting Chris Sky. And again, if Chris will do the right thing, if he'll discuss the Canadian Bill of Rights, and if he'll answer my questions in an honest way and show intellectual integrity and honesty, then, of course, sure, Chris and I can become friends. And we can work out, right, Chris? You want to work out, dude, together? Let's do it, man. You know what I'm trying to compel you to do, Chris. Come on. And all freedom leaders. It's not just Chris, my friends, that's not talking about the Canadian Bill of Rights. And the only politician that I know of that's really discussing it at times, I don't know if he's doing it consistently, though, my friends, is, I always forget his name. Steve, do you remember? Can you tell me? I was going to say Sloan. Yeah, but I forget his first name. Derek Sloan. And I'll apologize to Derek Sloan if he hears this video or watches it. I almost forgot his name. Derek Sloan, my friends, to his credit. First of all, Derek, it was very disconcerting because I had listened to some speeches of Derek Sloan, and he was doing the same playbook as all the other politicians do, my friends. They try to distract you for their government parties and their agendas. They try to distract you and lie to you, basically, when they pump up the charter. And they will not discuss the Canadian Bill of Rights. And they won't show you the difference, my friends. Derek Sloan, to his credit, finally did a speech, I think it was about a month or two, and he discussed the Canadian Bill of Rights. And kudos to him. It was a really good speech. But is he still doing it, everyone? I hope he is. Or we'll get rid of this charter. Is he still talking about the Canadian Bill of Rights? And again, that's another boy I'd like to meet. Derek Sloan. I want to meet him. We'll talk. And I hope, Derek, that you do that. It's very, very important. And we're going to bring it home, my friends, here. Why? Again, we're going to expand. I'm going to read you off, if I may, the Canadian Bill of Rights. And I know I did in the last live, everyone, but we're going to do it again. We got fire alarms. Wow, this is an exciting city I live in, I'll tell you. Woo! Can't see it. Anyway, thanks for staying with me, everybody. Are you having a great day, by the way? I hope you are, my friends. And I hope you're excited that we are going to get a lot of our rights and freedoms back. Every single one of them, as a matter of fact, my friends. And we know they've been trampled on. But we have to also understand, everybody, again, we have to be hyper-vigilant as all. We just have to unite more Canadians. Never give up. Never surrender. And understand, though, everybody, we got to teach the sheeple out there that when you give away these rights and freedoms, you never get it back. That's been proven throughout every pandemic, right, everybody? This is a pandemic, but every pandemic, when you give away these rights and freedoms, you never get it back. And so an example of where we're going to really need some pushback, everybody, and be consistent And I thank each and every one of you again for doing, for educating others, for trying to do the pushback, right? For not giving up, not surrendering. You see Starbucks, all these corporations, you see the bus stations, union stations, they've all bought into this hideous mass psyop, my friends. Yeah, part of our society, as we know, even throughout the summer, right? We got our cab drivers, bus drivers. I mean, I talk to these people. I give them hell sometimes, but respectful. I'll talk to the ambulance dudes. I say, you guys, are you having to wear these masks all day? Is your employer trying to con you? And the answer is usually yes, my friends. I mean, it's crazy. That is not going to stop anytime soon, my friends, unless we continue to do the pushback. We don't want that kind of society, this transhumanism nonsense, my friends, right? But it's happening right now. And we've had other rights and freedoms taken away at times, my friends, but we are going to get them back. And do not buy into Vlad, my friends. Again, I hope to meet Vlad someday, and I will tell him the same thing Jane said. Don't you ever say we're a communist country ever again. And don't you have messages saying that we're like in a police state. No, we're not. Okay? And yeah, it's despicable when some cops have violated our rights and freedoms. And yes, we call them out. But don't make it seem like all the police are evil or Gestapo or Nazis. Because it's not the case, my friends. That's the good news. I'll give you an example. Just before I read off the Canadian Bill of Rights, everybody. Rebel News, by the way, should have celebrated this, and it should have been celebrated across Canada in a big way, and it wasn't. And our government should have told you, my friends. Vlad should have told you this, and he never did, right? But 43 police departments, remember, Vlad wants to make you think, apparently, that we're in a police state half the time, right? Oh, and he reminds you that it's communist Russia, Canada, right? Well, Vlad never told you, though, my friends. Here's, again, I'm trying to show everybody that Vlad is a public speaker and as a so-called leader. He needs to be more careful. He needs to give us the respect that we deserve. And that means you put out messages that are truthful, honest, and empower us. You don't empower the Canadian people, nor are you being even truthful when you say we're a communist country, right? You don't empower the Canadians to take action and be change agents when you make it seem demoralizing that we're like in a police state. Oh no, we got no more rights and freedoms. I mean, it's crazy, everybody. But this is the approach seemingly that Vlad does. We got to be careful, everybody. And he doesn't discuss the Canadian Bill of Rights. That's another huge red flag, man. Maybe, is he going to start like he said he would? We'll find out, my friends. Okay? And again, everybody, another reminder. Can someone please tell me, do you ever see Chris Sky wearing anything with Canada on it? I don't. Maybe he does. I haven't. And why wouldn't they wear something that represents Canada, my friends? If you're a true Canadian patriot and you have noble intentions and you're not being controlled at all, why wouldn't you wear a Canada maple leaf on a sweater? Is it just me? Maybe I'm out to lunch on this part, my friends. I just find it very odd and seemingly not right. They're not wearing anything except me, my friends. Look at me. I got a Canada hat on that I wear all the time. And even Kelly, I love when she called me, I'm the Canadian cowboy, she called me. Thank you for that, Kelly. I appreciate your compliment. I've always said, even though, Kelly knows, and I'm not the only one that has certain consternation with Kelly, and there's a lot of questions to be asked at times about her. She's been with this movement from day one. And yes, I'm disappointed that she hasn't invited me to BC, or she said that she was going to take me to Alberta and I could be a speaker. Obviously, with her and Chris Sky, that was the idea, and then she never followed through. I still adore part of Kelly's personality. I will give her credit where credit's due. I think Kelly does have noble intentions in a lot of ways. I think she's still compassionate, has a good heart. I just hope that, again, my friends, we've got to ask, are they being controlled at times? And I don't want to say any more with that, and other than let's go after Chris Sky and Vlad on this and ask the real hard questions there. But I was going to say, so Kelly's not wearing anything. When I meet Kelly, I'll say, Kelly, let's get some clothes on you that has like a Canada maple leaf, or I'll buy you a hat. You can wear the same hat as me, Kelly. I mean, this is the visual. Shouldn't we be putting that out on a tour, my friends? Shouldn't they be putting out? Whoever's organizing this tour, wouldn't you like to see all these freedom fighters wear a Canada insignia of some kind, whether it be a hat or a sweater? I don't see it here. And do they ever do that, my friends? Or do they consistently do it? Please feel free to leave me a comment, everybody. Okay? Anyway, thanks for listening on that. Now, Canadian Bill of Rights. Here we go, my friends. Let's bring it home. This amazing piece of legislation. Before I read it off, just real quick, everybody, as I tried to say in the last live, and I learned a hell of a lot from Jane Scarf on this, as many Canadians are learning from her amazing work on the Canadian Bill of Rights, and other people are doing their own research on this, and that's fantastic, and looking at real history, everybody. And thank you for that, okay? And one of them is that, of course, after World War I, there was a lot of debate, a lot of discussion in Canada as to how do we enshrine our common law rights? How do we make them, in other words, more robust, firmer and enforceable? Because remember, everybody, it all goes back to the tyranny that, yes, Vlad talks about it. He comes from a communist country, Russia, right? Well, this is why Vlad should be discussing Canadian Bill of Rights and Chris Sky, as I said earlier, right, everybody? Because the Canadian Bill of Rights does protect us from a communist country. This is the way out, my friends. This is one of the ways we win this whole battle, my friends. And we're going to get this country turned around like that. Once more and more people discuss the Canadian Bill of Rights, I'm telling you, my friends, and especially speakers, okay? Not to mention all of you, the rest of you out there that may not necessarily speakers, but we're going to get people on stage, and myself, my friends. I will continue to do it, I promise, at times. We're going to discuss the Canadian Bill of Rights. Absolutely we will. I was going to say, so after World War I, everybody, there was, because, again, we knew we didn't want Canada to ever be a communist country. We didn't want Canada to be taken over by a fascist, deep state or covert government, right? And that's why there was a lot of discussion after World War I to enshrine, again, our common law rights. And therefore, everybody, from my understanding, there was a lot of, and this is true, there was a lot of debate about, and the public got to do oral and written submissions. The parties got to exchange ideas. Again, the public got to exchange ideas and information, my friends. And it was all presentable. It was challengeable. And in the end, everybody, here's significance, as you may know. We got, an amazing piece of legislation that was written in, and it was by the Canadian people, for the Canadian people. Please never forget that, everybody, right? And again, no loopholes, my friends. Here we go. I'm going to prove it to you right now. Those of you that do not know about the Canadian Bill of Rights exactly, I'm going to read it off. And those of you that already know, please don't mind me reading it off again, okay? Because I'm going to try to make this video extra powerful right now on this legislation. Here we go, my friends. And it's all true. And this is how we win, my friends. And believe me, some of the global elites out there, call them, you keep hearing the world, you got the World Economic Forum, you got the globalists, that term that's used a lot, right? But some of the commies out there, whether it be communist China, etc., my friends, some of the scumbags out there, some of the global financial predators, some of the militarized warmongers, call them what you will, financial global cabal, my friends, trust me, especially here in Canada, they are scared of the Canadian Bill of Rights. They are afraid of you talking about the Canadian Bill of Rights, my friends, and educating others. But they can't stop it, my friends. They can't stop us, right? And that's why, remember I told you before, everybody. Oh, sorry, I meant to read out the Canadian Bill of Rights. I'm supposed to do that. But remember, I did a powerful speech on March 20th in Toronto, in the cosmopolitan city of Toronto. Again, I was honored and privileged to do it, as I told my audience at the end of the speech. And apparently I knocked it out of the park. I got a great reaction from the crowd. Kelly even gave me a lot of credit. She said I kicked ass. Right, Kelly? You said that. Thank you. But really, everybody, because of that speech, my friends agree with me. Jane agrees. She told me from day one. That's why a week later, when I went up on stage again underneath that beautiful statue, they had Andre, this idiot, drown me out with a police siren and bullhorn, my friends. They didn't even want me to say one word. That was a psyop conducted on me because they didn't want me to get momentum, apparently, and do another powerful speech. And the reason why I shook up some of those elites, I believe, everybody, and my friends agree, is twofold. I talked about the Canadian Bill of Rights for the first time briefly. I discussed what a PSYOP is, psychological operations. And that's, again, we all have that ability, everybody. We can get more of us on board talking about these all important issues. And that's why we're going to be able to get our power and sovereignty back, because we know, again, my friends, some of these scumbags, we're seeing it every day. They're trying to rebuke our power and sovereignty. They're trying to take away our free will. Okay? Anyway, let me sit down, my friends, if I may, and finish this off. Part 1, Bill of Rights. Recognition and Declaration of Rights and Freedoms. It is hereby recognized and declared that in Canada there have existed and shall continue to exist without discrimination by reason of race, national origin, color, religion, or sex the following human rights and fundamental freedoms. Namely, A, the right of the individual to life, liberty, security of the person, and enjoyment of property, and the right not to be deprived therefore except by due process of law. And if you're in court for any reason, my friends, whether it be any of these illegal pieces of legislation, if somehow they've been able to arrest you and you're in court, this again, you use your Canadian Bill of Rights, my friends, and chances are you are going to come out shining like never before. And an example of that, you're going to see an example of that very soon in the near future, my friends, in the next few months. And his name is Dave Freedom. And he's using the Canadian Bill of Rights. And he was illegally arrested, my friends. And the Crown is trying to time and time. Jane has never seen anything like it in judicial law, where the Crown gave him literally 5 hours of talk, about all this. And the Crown is time and time again trying to con Dave Freedom into using the Charter. They want Dave Freedom not to use the Canadian Bill of Rights, my friends. They are scared to death. Dave Freedom knows it. Jane knows it. And Dave is going to come out shining, my friends, and he's going to be able to expose a lot of corruption. I won't say any more. I'll let Dave Freedom do his thing in the next few months. So let's stand behind amazing people like Dave Freedom, my friends. Again, another truth, freedom, health, word. Hi, Dave. I wish you'd come on live one day. Anyway, here we go, my friends. Continuing on. B, the right of the individual to equality before the law and protection of the law. C, freedom of religion. D, freedom of speech. Again, reading off the Canadian Bill of Rights here, my friends, all of it. E, freedom of assembly and association. And F, freedom of the press. Number 2, my friends, construction of law. Finishing off. Every law of Canada shall, unless it is expressly declared by an act of Parliament of Canada, that it shall operate notwithstanding the Canadian Bill of Rights, be so construed and applied as to not abrogate, abridge, or infringe, or to authorize the abrogation, abridgment, or infringement of any of the rights or freedoms herein recognized and declared. Now, can you tell me, my friends, don't you think a Mr. Non-Compliant, apparently a freedom fighter like Chris Sky, who does a great job at going against mass, as I've always said, I love that. I'm all about that too. That's an important issue. But this is even more importantly, apparently, because Chris Sky and the forces that I think are possibly behind Chris Sky, they're telling him, don't you dare discuss the Canadian Bill of Rights. Well, Chris, why don't you show some balls and courage, dude? I'm challenging you right now again. Talk about the Canadian Bill of Rights. And I will, God willing, we'll meet in person, Chris. And I'll challenge you too, man. Come on stage with me, dude. Let's discuss it. Let's fight for this country, Chris. Let's do it in a real, authentic way. Let's have real leadership, Chris Sky. Real leadership. Real leadership is not abandoning this amazing piece of legislation that's going to get us out of this tyranny. This is how we're going to change the country, my friends. Mark my words. More of us discussing this, okay? So this is why I get so exasperated, everybody. I hope you agree. This is absolutely amazing. Now, our Canadian Bill of Rights, as amazing it is, it's not quite as good as the Bill of Rights that the United States have, but it's pretty damn close. And it's very similar in a lot of ways, my friends, right? And a lot of businesses opened in the United States using their Bill of Rights. That's why they were able to open, my friends. Okay? Never forget that. And again, U.S. have the First, Second Amendment. We adopt a lot of those same values, too, that come out of the U.S. Constitution regardless, my friends. So again, we are winning, everybody. And we can decapitate these shadow groups. And again, my friends, we're not going to have martial law. You think our amazing Canadian armed forces are going to cave and come in here and violate our rights as Canadians? No way. And again, everybody, I compel you, feel free, write to your Canadian military, ask them and compel them, and people that you know that serve in the military respectfully, tell them and ask them, come to the protests, come join us on these marches. Let's band together, my friends, right? You know, as I always said, you know, I love that quote by Gershaw, everybody. He said, when you make a decision, Providence moves with you. And in my words, you put your intention to the world, my friends, your positive intention, you amplify it, right? You focus it. Let's be focused on all this. And resistance manifests itself in many different ways. And it is directly proportional to the magnitude of the change that you want to make. So let's multiply the fires of resistance in a way that can't suppress all of us, everyone, right? And again, you know, more great news. I talk about this a lot, everybody, and discuss it. You know, we don't need all the sheeple. It would be wonderful to be able to educate every single Canadian, to have them all know the truth, right? And to join us in our freedom movements. And let's not stop educating people, my friends. But the great news is we don't need every single person. For any societal shift, right? For any transformative, amazing, positive change in society to gain traction, you only need 30%. And I would even argue it's less than that, my friends. That's the great news. And believe me, my friends, even with all the controlled opposition out there, many names that I don't even know of that will be controlled opposition for sure. And I'm trying to get us to ask, and many of us are asking the hard questions and calling these people out when they don't say the right thing or things that they should say that they're not saying. It's totally okay to talk about this, my friends, if we want real strong leadership, right? What was I saying, everybody? Yeah, again, we got to unite, everybody, and have strong leadership. And again, I was trying to say, everybody, every single day we're getting closer to getting that 30%, I believe. We're seeing millions of people protesting all around the world through this bullshit COVID-19 crisis, right, everyone? I mean, it just still amazes me, as it does, I'm sure, a lot of you out there, right? How a flu virus that they just mutated, we know what, 77% of it is literally influenza-like, right? How they were able to piggyback on this flu-like crisis, this flu-like that goes to the lungs more, if it even is real. And again, a virus, my friends, that's based on propaganda, because they never even isolated or purified this thing. So again, and we know the real numbers, my friends. This is all amazing news. And this is also partly why we win, my friends, because it's people like you that are having intelligent discourse, that are showing that, and I said this in a speech, everybody, and I'm going to keep saying it, that I thank all of you, truth, health, freedom warriors, for liberating yourselves from the absolute brainwash and mind control out there. And you are trying to, in other words, you're trying to lay the foundation, working on laying the foundation to free people from fear, control, and the certitude and bondage of slavery. That's what you guys are doing, and I thank each and every one of you, men and ladies, and we got even young kids that are trying to do the same thing. We got amazing speakers that get interviewed. I think one of the young women are working with Druthers now. She's doing amazing activist work, and her other friends as well, I've noticed, and I've met those girls. They're amazing people. And all the mainstream media, my friends, they should all be ashamed of themselves, or pretty much, right, for not covering those girls and not covering any of her speeches. I even was telling a family member, if you want to know if mainstream media are courageous or if they're honest, just know that if they were, they'd be covering our speeches, many of them, right, everybody? They don't record the amazing nurses, some of them that are coming out speaking the power to truth on stage, right? Discussing the real numbers of COVID-19, etc., and the treatments. Mainstream media won't touch it, my friends. But guess what? Just like Dr. Shiva says, my friends, in the end, we don't need mainstream media. It would be wonderful to have them on our side, but we don't need them, my friends. We can change the behavior of these scumbags. They will run off like cowards, my friends, that they are, when we do the pushback. That's how it works, everybody. It all comes back to us, the people, everybody, right? We just have to have enough pushback. And we have to understand propaganda, some of these sleek propaganda schemes that they use, my friends, all largely misinform people, right? To make you change your mind on the COVID-19 narrative, etc. And that means conning people largely to get jabbed. Big Pharma, we know, is taking full advantage of this crisis. It's disgusting, I know, my friends. But again, many of us are awake. Many of us are not going to give up. We're going to get this country back on track. We're going to never surrender our democracy and freedoms. And we've learned a lot. That's the other good news. I hope you agree, everybody, that through this tyranny at times, through some of the psyops, tyrannical actions and trampling on our rights and freedoms, certainly we've learned a lot, my friends, right? We certainly should. We've learned a lot from these experiences, and I think that's another reason in the very near future, everybody, we are going to, again, we're going to make this country better than it's ever been. And it's all to protect our future generations of children, our babies, and this is what it's all about, right? And give them a bright future, everybody, and let them know that there's hope, right? I hope you agree, my friends. I hope I'm making sense. So, and finally, everybody, just real quick, and then we'll end this live stream. I shouldn't say too quick, but I just want to define what a PSYOP is one more time, everybody, and we'll do future videos. Remember, a PSYOP is known by different terms, right? Propaganda, psychological operations, hearts and minds. Even one person, a friend of mine, I think he's correct, especially nowadays, you could even say public relations is a PSYOP, right? And often the military will do PSYOPs. We know the psychological operations, right? But the police do it sometimes too, my friends. And there's three different types. There's tactical, there's operational, and there's strategic. Now, when it comes to PSYOPs within the freedom movements, my friends, a lot of them are strategic PSYOPs. But so what is a PSYOP exactly? As I've said many times before, I'm going to keep repeating it, everybody. It's so important, I think, to know. It's any activity that is practiced mainly by psychological methods with the aim of elucidating or evoking a planned psychological reaction in another person. And hi, John, Muscle Stud Thunder Johnny, out in Burlington. Thanks for joining me, Johnny. Anyway, I digress there. Sorry, my friends. But he's another friend of mine. I got to acknowledge him, my buddy John. Anyway, as I was saying, everybody, so another way of saying what a PSYOP is, it's taking selected information, and I want you to think about controlled opposition out there, my friends. I want you to think about some of the division, because a PSYOP, is often used to pump up division and fear, everyone. It absolutely is. I want you to think about some of the division that's taken place in our freedom movements. And my friends remind me all the time. I have a lot of friends that have been with the movement from day one. I wasn't with the movement from day one. I joined sort of midstream, and I'm really, again, it's been a really eye-opening and such an amazing learning experience. And I'm so thankful to have met so many amazing Canadian patriots, make so many new friends. And they taught me about a lot of what took place with different controlled opposition out there and a lot of strange stuff that's been going on. And it's really quite fascinating, right, everybody? But as I discuss what a PSYOP is, I want you to think about some of the people that I brought up, my friends. And especially, the forces that are behind the scenes that use these so-called puppets, these sometimes freedom leaders or what have you, right? Or they'll use followers within the movement, within these grassroots bottoms-up movements that we're trying to build, my friends. They will use often, obviously, the followers at times. Even my friend reminded me of this, right, everyone? So, and they want people to just follow these so-called leaders like sheeple, right? My friends, again, we need to transform leadership. So, another way of saying what a PSYOP is, everybody, is, again, when you take selected information and indicators to an audience to affect their emotions, value systems, belief systems, and objective reasoning, okay? And again, a PSYOP, very important, everybody. It can be, of course, directed at an individual. It can be directed toward groups, organizations, or governments, okay? And this has gone out largely throughout history, my friends, especially in the 21st century, okay? And again, another way of saying what a PSYOP is, as part of that, my friends, it's, when you take or influence, you're influencing behavior and attitudes that are favorable to the originator's objective. Did you just hear what I said, everybody? Influencing behavior and attitudes that are favorable to the originator's objective. Now, some of those originators' objective, sometimes that's within our governments, right? Some of the party lines. What is their objective, everybody? Why are they not discussing the Canadian Bill of Rights? Why are they hiding largely the Canadian Bill of Rights under the rug, as it so clearly shows, my friends, and yet pump up the charter, right? Because it serves their interests a lot, unfortunately, my friends, right? And I think a lot of it has, they don't want us, the people, to have more control and more power over ourselves and of our sovereignty, my friends, and of what's going on in our society. And they don't want us to understand our human rights and freedoms. I'm sorry, but that, I know it's a sad case, right, everybody, to talk about how our governments view us at times, some of the parties, but that's seemingly what it is, my friends. And then it gets complicating, because then we know we have a deep state foreign government when you really look at it too, my friends, or factions, right? And this is who we're up against, okay? But again, we have the power, my friends, and again, we can change a lot of their behavior, because many of them are cowards, and once they do when we do the pushback, we can put the fear of God into the elites, my friends, okay? And a real quick example, by the way, everybody, as the great Dr. Shiva will show you, between 1900 and 1950, there was almost a revolution right next door to Canada, right in the United States, everybody. And we've had similar here in Canada, where we had working class. It started with women in the shirt factories, my friends. And again, Chris Sky, Kellyanne Wolf, Vlad, the rest of them, they'll never tell you these things, my friends. I think some of the information, hopefully I'm discussing, this is how we change the country. Not only the Canadian Bill of Rights, but let's look at real history here, everybody, showing our power that, again, it started with women in shirt factories. Remember, there was child labor. You know, there were 15-hour more work days. It was disgusting in these work environments and very polluted. And the women were fed up. And as Dr. Shiva shows you with real history, my friends, the women, they were ferocious. And they started a bottoms-up movement. Eventually, obviously, the men joined them. And again, it was a bottoms-up, revolutionary, grassroots movement. And the great Dr. Shiva, my friends, he's trying to do the same thing. Okay, I usually carry his card with me. But anyway, so my point is, everybody, because of that bottoms-up movement, and that's what I'm trying to inspire more Canadians to do, everybody, and we need more leaders. All of you out there, everybody, you are leaders in your own way. Let's do it, man. Let's get more numbers of these protests. And when we're seeing division or controlled opposition, let's talk about it. Let's unite people, not divide people, my friends. We can do it. 98% of diseases, therefore, my friends, because of these bottoms-up movements, 98% of diseases disappeared between the late 1800s, particularly 1900 and 1950. 98% of diseases disappeared, everybody, because those bottoms-up movements, the working class primarily, my friends, they put the fear of God into the elites, a lot of these cowards, right? And because the elites, some of the corporate liberal elites out there, they didn't want to give in to infrastructure. They didn't want to build highways, right? You know, they didn't want you to have good water and good nutrition. And that's what does it, my friends. As I've discussed, you know, I don't think Chris Sky ever mentions it very much either. Is, you know, the reason why we don't need jabs is, again, it's all about good nutrition. What strengthens the immune system, right? Everybody, good nutrition, sanitation, refrigeration, vitamin C, vitamin D. That's what does it, my friends. And exercise, of course, too. It's not primarily a jab, my friends. Hardly ever do you ever need any vaccine. As I've always said, and the great Dr. Shiva will show you too, my friends. It's more what the governments don't discuss, and they should, is what boosts the immune system. I know it's egregious, my friends, that the government doesn't talk about it, and they should. And again, we're watching a big pharma. It's all about greed, power, and control, particularly when it comes to all these jabs, right, everybody? Again, a lot of greed, power, and control, but let's show our generosity of free spirit, my friends. Especially, let's try to sway hearts and minds, right? And again, we can transform real leadership, and I believe we can have the most transformative, positive change that Canada has ever known, and I believe worldwide, globally, my friends. We truly are on the cusp right now of having the greatest revolution, the greatest positive, transformative change, the greatest paradigm shift of human thinking. That's what we're living in right now, my friends. And we're right, again, on the cusp of the greatest positive change the world has ever known. And it's going to be either that or we're going to enter darkness, everybody. And I don't think we're going to go into darkness because, again, it's people like you, my friends. You're trying to educate more and more people out there, and I thank you so much, my friends. I can't even begin to express my gratitude and appreciation. So please, never give up and continue to try to think positive. And I hope I made some good points today, my friends. If anything I'm incorrect, feel free to let me know. Anything you agree with, hopefully a lot, feel free to leave me comments as well. And maybe give me some ideas, too, as to how to further help with us transforming our leadership in this country, my friends. Thank you so much. Gotta go. It's Jason, Cosmic Truth Authority here. I'm on other platforms. I might link them up. Take care, my friends. Have a great day. Live strong. And again, we are winning, my friends. Bye-bye. See you. Oh, and by the way, leave me a comment. Would somebody please tell me, am I right? Should Chris Sky, Kellyanne Wolf, Vlad, and the other guys here on this tour, should they not be wearing something that resembles Canada, especially on this image that they promoted, or am I wrong? And do they, in other speeches or rallies, wherever they're traveling, do they show Canada, symbolic, powerful messages like a Canada leaf or something to do with Canada on their clothes? I don't see it, my friends. Even Vlad, it's a little heart here with Hugs Over Mass. His branding, of course, Hugs Over Mass, but I don't see anything, representing Canada. I mean, is it just me or not? Please let me know, my friends. But you do see somebody, actually, there's one person that resembles showing he's a Canadian patriot through and through. It's me, right? There's my Canada hat. Thanks to my friend that superimposed me. Anyway, enough about me. Take care, everybody. Thanks for listening. Have a great day. Bye.